Alright, we're back here at EC Computers here. We have taken out and unboxed the Corsair 900D. As you can see, this is the older little brother, I guess you could say, of the 900D, which is the 800D. Size-wise, obviously you can tell it's at least a few inches bigger, taller as well too. It's got about the same depth, I would say. The faceplates look a little bit similar. As you can see on the 800D, it's got kind of like the push. Some of the older models didn't have the hot swappable bays in here, so you would see like a flush front without the hot swappable bays. You know, it's kind of got the same style on top, as you'll see in a moment for that. 800D has the push pin pulls on both sides, the back and front. Kind of, you know, they've actually removed this from the 900D, so it's kind of like an open concept kind of style. They went with a different design here because they got more room, and you know, however, they're both still nice cases. So we'll go with the 900D now. As you can see on the 900D or the 800D as well too, they changed the way the top looks on them. The top of the 800D has enough room for basically a full rad or 3 times 120mm fans. Whereas on the top of the 900D, as you can tell, it's basically just like an open concept. They've actually opened it up so you can pretty much put, it looks like 420mm fans on top, and you'll be able to notice there in a minute once we open it up. When we look at the front of it, you can tell that it has kind of the open concept of it. When you look at the front, it's not kind of like the push kind of idea as the 800D. It's more of just like the pull out, and then you kind of get this kind of deal where it's kind of like a push area for accessing your 120mm fans in the front. So we'll open that up so you can kind of see it. It's basically push on top side of each, and you can see that there's 3 120mm on the front. The only bad part about this is actually if you take these out and you want to replace them, is lining them back up. I always find that it's harder to kind of line them up because you're trying to line them up actually with this plate back here. I don't know, with me anyway, I found that it was a little bit difficult. The front fans will go quite fast. I don't know actually the RPMs of them. Personally, in my 900D at home, I have 3 Scythe fans, the Casmaros, and those run you know, 110 CFM, and they will push a lot of air in. The only downfall is obviously that it will suck in a lot of dust. Now the 900D does have the dust filters on them, so you can actually remove it and you can actually dust it off yourself. I don't think these ones are removable. I don't see that there's a way to remove them, but on the side where the air is actually going through as well too, it will catch the dust, and you basically just take it out, rub it down real quick, and then you're pretty much all set and ready to go. They do actually have kind of a weird design on the 900D because it's kind of got the bigger front, I guess you could say, rather than the 800D. You're looking at something that obviously when you remove one of these, you're gonna kind of see of like a weird design when you have your 5.25 bay in there for your DVD-ROM or your optical drive. I think they mostly went that way just because most people aren't using optical drives anymore. People are going the way of, you know, if they need to install anything, they'll just download it online. But like I said, on the front, they basically put a quick push pin, 2 USB 3.0. They actually have the USB 3.0 version for the 800D anyway. But now that they've got rid of that, they basically put a reset button on the middle there as well too, 4 USBs, and then the front audio. And the coolest thing, which I think is kind of cool, but I still like the power button on the 800D more, is how your middle button is the power button for your PC. The only downfall of that is if you're in the dark and you're pushing around and you accidentally press your power button, you're kind of turning off your computer, right? So let's migrate over to the back of, or to the inside, I should say, of the 900D. When you're looking at it, you can notice that the bottom panel kind of slides out, and you kind of get these like weird little dust filters. They are magnetic. You know, you can pretty much just put them in, take them out, wash them real quick, and then when you're done with them, you just throw them back on there and stick them back up. Normally with me, they're kind of flimsy. I honestly don't think that they should have used these. You know, maybe they're just there to just give people accessories. I have no idea. For me, I take them out. They're too flimsy, and they kind of don't look that nice sitting there. They do actually have the rack mountable bays for all of your hard drives. They're screwed in through thumb screws on the back. You can actually remove all of them if you really wanted to. You could also take this one and put it up here so you're kind of cooling all of your hard drives. Not that hard drives really need a lot of cooling. They come with all of the regular hookups that you would normally get on the inside. You're basically going with pretty straightforward setup. You got your power connectors, you got your USB and your front audio. You also got your USB 3.0 that can be plugged into pretty much any newer motherboard. Another thing that they did actually add on here as well too is obviously a different kind of hot swappable. You can see that these are hot swappable bays obviously, but they've actually only done it to the bottom ones on here rather than on the 800D where they're accessible through the front because they wanted to add more airflow. So they did do it to the 3 here, and that's where you'll plug in them. You'll plug them into your motherboard. They are SATA 6, so that's always a plus anyway. So I mean, you're gonna, or SATA 3, sorry, with 6 gigabits per second. So I mean, you know, that's kind of like the plus side. The only downfall is I'm not really fond of these kind of flimsy trays. I never really liked them. I kind of like the ones of the 800D. They kind of went kind of plasticky with these, and actually during shipment, a lot of these little pins kind of came out of here, and I actually had to go individually one by one and put them back in. Inside these drive bays though is where they add in the little accessory kit. You see an extra one here from our old 900D. They pretty much just throw anything inside of there. I'll open up the one that's already opened. Inside of here you see all the accessories for your motherboard. You see you know, your fan screws for the top. You see more motherboard screws, also some for your drives, even though they are, you know, quick plug and plays. A lot more fan screws. The weird thing inside of this case, which kind of is the ultimate downfall that I found, I mean, unless there's an alternative, is this Allen key. So it's basically like an Allen wrench that you put inside and that you need to use, because if you actually look on the very inside of this case, which I'll slide around in a second for you to see, is that when you want to put any kind of, you know, graphics card or, you know, sound card or anything, you kind of got to go in with your hand and actually tighten it manually. So what they give you is this, whoops, they give you this Allen wrench, and you know, you got to manually tighten it yourself, which is actually very annoying. I mean, I'm so used to grabbing a power tool quickly, you're done, or even like you know, a straight flathead or something that you can just easily do with the 900D, I mean with the 800D, but versus this one, I find it very annoying. So a lot of people haven't really complained about it. The case is so new that I'm sure, you know, they're going to come up with something different. I actually did call Corsair on it and asked them what the deal with it was, and they basically came back and said, we know it's a problem, we're looking into it, but the case is so new that they're not going to look to change it. So that's the only downfall that I found myself to it. You know, other than that, the cable management is super easy in this case. You could honestly, you know, put a motherboard in this thing and everyone would be like, wow, your cable management is so nice, because there's really no hard way of doing it. I mean, there's so much room in the back here. You know, you could fit a baby back there and everything would, you know, fit nice and tidy. So, I mean, you know, after the motherboard's in, I mean, it's, you know, it'll look even better than the 800D does after all said and done. You know, you can take all these out too if you don't like the way they look. A lot of people replace them with multicolored ones, which is, you know, always a, you know, a general feature if you want to change it up yourself. You know, as these are just a magnetic kind of bay down here. A lot of people have been modding this themselves. I don't actually know how they mod it, but they've replaced this with kind of like a clear, like glass, so you can see the rad at the bottom. On the inside of the case, if I tilt it forward, you can see that the power supply now goes basically vertically up, and you know, that way you can fit a rad next to it when you're taking off the back plate over here, or you can also do it at the top too. So that's kind of like, you know, they've engineered quite a few different alternatives rather than the 800D basically, you know, having a clear side and not really, you know, doing much else other than, you know, blocking the way for any kind of rad until, you know, you wanted to kind of stuff it in where you really could. You know, it used to go right here in the middle. You would take that off and basically sit it right there, or on the bottom people would have to mod it. So the 900D is a huge improvement. We'll turn it around there just so you can see the back of the case itself, so you can kind of tell how, you know, how much room there really is to play on the back of this thing. I mean, you got all of your PCI ports there, which, I mean, you know, you're not going to really use too many of them unless you're S-aligned or crossfire, and you know, that's basically when you're going to be, you know, jamming them full. But they are really nice. I mean, you know, just the plates themselves are really nice and sturdy. They're not going to break easily. They're not going to break in your hand. You know, after you take the screws out here, you can have enough room for your rod to sit right there, or another power supply, whatever you really decide to do, I guess. And the same kind of mimic idea on the back here is 100% identical. And the same push pin design. You know, you push the pin on the back and it opens up. Same with the front. The back kind of looks, you know, like you got a lot more room than the 800D to play. They give you kind of the accessories here for your motherboard, from like a straight pin to, like, you know, go to the 8 pin on the motherboard. They also give you these quick releases for, I guess, easy cable organization. These things are flimsy, believe it or not. I've actually broken one on my case at home for the 900D. But I mean, at the same time, what do you really get out of a piece of plastic that's meant to hold a few cables, right? So when you look at the back, same design, people can take these out or do whatever they really want with them. You got your, as you can see there, what I was mentioning before, your hot swappable bays are now below instead of on the side. Is it a good feature? Maybe. I think you can actually buy multiple hot swappable devices to put more on this and make it a full hot swappable kind of device, and you can always remove this one out of the way and, you know, kind of play as much as you want. I've seen a lot of people, you know, they put all fans across the back here and try to, like, you know, do a kind of like a bottom up kind of cooling or a bottom out. I mean, you could pretty much play with this case as much as you really wanted to. But all in all, the 900D is a nice case. I'm running a i7 3960X right now inside of this case with a straight H100i, and that's cooling that probably at stock settings, and I'm getting around in game probably around 49 Celsius. So I mean, that's some good temps for having pretty much, you know, no overclock on it, as well as, you know, going straight with the H100i and not doing anything higher like a nice close cooling like a rad or anything like that. So I mean, with the case itself, you know, I give it an A+. The only thing that I really do not like with this case, which I think that they need to kind of figure out a different problem was, you know, having to put your hands in there and hand tighten it, especially when you're getting a video card that's so massive, you know, like the new 780s or even the 780 Ti's or the Titans that are going to be coming out. Not the Titans, sorry, the 780 Ti's that are going to come out. I don't know how big they're going to be, but you know, putting your hand in there after a video card is there is really hard to access. So that's something that I just hope that they improve, or maybe just kind of, you know, figure out a way of changing their next model, so then that way, you know, if they keep the same design, they just change it up a little bit. But other than that, it's a great improvement compared to the 800D, and you know, there's nothing more that I can really say about it. So nice to see you guys again, and hope to see you soon.